Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game So today we're going to continue the series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, and somehow the entire month of June has already gone by. It's the last Thursday of the month, and you know what that means. It's MiSTer FPGA News Roundup time. I'm going to be telling you all the fun things that happened in June in case you missed them and what I look forward to in the back half of the year. And it is absolutely wild that we are in the back half of 2024. I feel like at this point in time, in a week I'm going to be 60, and in 2 weeks I'm going to be dead. All jokes aside though, if you do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel something wants to support the channel, got a Patreon link down below as well. But June's been an absolutely awesome month for developments in the Sega Saturn core. There's been 3 different updates that have come out, and one of them basically fixed all of the issues that people were having with the 2.5V RAM modules. For the longest time, it was asking people in comments what RAM module they had before I could help troubleshoot anything, and 9 times out of 10, if a game failed to load or if it had audio issues, we would find out they were on the 2.5V RAM module. Well, SRG320 went in and reworked the portions of code in RAM, so now people with older RAM modules are seeing much better compatibility, to the point in time now where I no longer have to ask what RAM you're using if you're having an issue. I can try to help you with the issue first, and that is awesome because MiSTer FPGA at this point in time is over 5 years old, so there are people with hardware out there that had these older RAM modules. I've moved over to 2.9 or 3.0, but I still have a 2.5 build, and I did test it with the current core, and I was able to get every single game I wanted to load up and play that we know works working perfectly fine. So that is huge. I know it's just a small hardware tweak, and for some of you it's not going to be that important because you have newer RAM modules, but for the people that were encountering issues on MiSTer FPGA due to the RAM, this one core update fixed so many things, and that is great because we want absolutely everyone to be able to enjoy Sega Saturn. So SRG320 going back in and making the core more compatible with older RAM is a 10 out of 10 development for the month of June. And you add on top of that all of the other visual fixes and other improvements in the core, and Sega Saturn is feeling absolutely close to the finish line. That's not to say it won't take another 6 months or a year for it to go to actual completion, but at this point in time there's so many games you can just sit down and play. It's so much fun just to get to re-experience Sega Saturn in a brand new methodology, and the core is so good in spots that I've been starting to run some versus real hardware comparisons, and soon I will also have some versus software emulation comparisons. I know the core is not done, they're just for fun, but it is something that people have been wanting to see. And the core is so mature in so many games that I can now confidently compare them against other things as kind of a preliminary work in progress look at just how good the core is doing. But if you're a Sega Saturn fan and a MiSTer FPGA owner, June was probably one of the best months out of the year to be a Sega fan. Now moving over to the hardware side of things, Taki Udon has updated a lot of people about his clone MiSTer, the consoles, the boards, the prices, and some of the details on the electrical system on them. So it seems like hopefully maybe in July or maybe in September, hopefully before fall, we're able to pre-order these things and I can get them on my test bench in front of the camera and test them for all of you. It's going to be the Retro Gaming FPGA board. It went from RetroPie, which I think was probably a good idea, honestly, to not muddle the waters when you're trying to search for these things. But basically all of the different devices are designed, they are ready for production, things such as that. Now it's going to be different than the standard 5V setup of a traditional MiSTer FPGA. It's using 12V out of the box, and you can definitely work around that, but that's something we discovered in June, that the electrical system and the input voltage here is going to differ from what we're used to on MiSTer FPGA. But once people figure that out, work around it, we do some setup videos, shouldn't really prove to be much of an issue whatsoever, but it was a slight change that people do and should be aware of in the future. But again, it's great to see the MiSTer FPGA cost coming down, and it seems like it's going to be under $99, because the one thing I care about more than anything is people being able to play games however they want. And while I don't think a full price MiSTer is overpriced, I think what you get for it's an incredible value. I totally understand that the $500 price tag of it is prohibitively expensive for some people. Some of you have kids out there and can't drop $500 on a hobby, some of you just don't want to. But Taki Udon is showing it running cores. This was about 2 months ago, but everything seems to be progressing nicely. So hopefully by fall, at least by Halloween, I hope to be able to have videos on this hardware, and I hope it brings a lot more people to the MiSTer FPGA party, because if you're able to build an entire MiSTer triple stack for like under $150, that is getting into Raspberry Pi pricing, and you're getting a much better experience on the cores that exist for MiSTer FPGA versus Pi. And before you leave a comment down below and say, but Pi does more, I totally understand that. You're not going to be playing Dreamcast on MiSTer anytime soon or ever. Pi can do it, and I get those things, and I'm still excited to see the potential of things getting cheaper in the future. Now, on the Nintendo 64 front, I've obviously been testing a lot of Conker's Bad Fur Day, trying to understand exactly what's causing the freezing, and I do know that that is now down to RAM allocation and the consecutive free RAM blocks. Basically, what's happening is the allocation of RAM is not acting correctly in the core for some reason, so when it's trying to read or write from specific addresses, there's not enough contiguous RAM free. I'm not sure within the code of Conker's Bad Fur Day if there's some sort of system in place to actually clean up the RAM, defragment it, and basically do a little garbage collecting in the background. But the thing is, as far as why does Conker freeze, we are now aware of that with the debug prototype ROM running the crash handler and getting those memory maps out. I have been talking to some people that work in Nintendo 64 development, both that worked on games back in the day, just not Conker, as well as people that work on games today, just to try to get a better understanding of how that could possibly be rectified. Again, no promises whatsoever. It's as likely as I fail that I succeed in doing this, but me and a ton of people from Discord have collected so much data on the crashing, the memory allocation free and largest free, the memory maps, to understand exactly why the core crashes in the first place and what could potentially be done to the game files to make them stop freezing. So hopefully sometime soon I have an update. It could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a year. You're just going to have to wait and see. And moving back over to the hardware side, just not the clone territory in this instance, MiSTer Addons has released and is shipping his Analog Pro I/O board, which is going to give you 24-bit color in the cores that support them, and it's absolutely incredible for something like Nintendo 64. It reduces down so much of the color banding you would see, and it looks incredible on my PVM. And it is fun to be able to get new boards from MiSTer FPGA, and I understand not everyone wants or needs this board, and that's the great thing is you don't need to buy it if you don't want 24-bit color. But for the CRT purists out there, the people that are using RGB with your MiSTer FPGA, getting the 24-bit color out of MiSTer is going to be awesome, and a lot of you like that soft touch USB-C power button there, so you have one button to turn on and off your MiSTer versus a switch, or the pigtails that we've been using for a very long time. And this thing incorporates all of the different signals on board, things such as S-Video and Composite, where before you needed a breakout adapter, so it cleans up the system in and of itself, changes around the audio output a little bit to something that's a little bit easier to handle in my opinion, and just overall gives MiSTer FPGA users another option to use in the future, because stuff like PlayStation 1, Nintendo 64 really do benefit from that 24-bit RGB color out on a CRT or a PVM. And I know I had a question or two in the last video when I reviewed this thing. If you just play on your flat panel television, this is not anything you're going to want to use. This is for CRT users in and of themselves. But again, for the cores that support this, is a fundamental change. It reduces down all of that color banding and some of the unsightliness that you get on some of these more modern cores when they're in 18-bit mode. So if you've noticed any of that color banding, or you just want the best possible analog signal out, that 99% reference quality, then the Analog Pro is shipping now, and I will leave a link in the description below to pick one up, because for the price I definitely think it's worth it if you're a Nintendo 64 fan. Now, sticking with hardware but more in the case category than the actual boards, Todd from RetroFrog designed a new MiSTer FPGA case, and I actually really like the look of it. I feel like it's kind of like a PC Engine / PC Engine Core Graphics 2, kind of with those vibes there with the lines and striations in them, and I like at least the filament he used for the print as well with some of that speckle in it. But it's fun that we're getting different case designs for MiSTer FPGA, because the great thing about the project is it's infinitely moddable. You can kind of roll your own and decide what you want to have. So if you're looking for a new case, or if you're raw dogging your MiSTer, this is definitely an option, and I'll leave a link to his Twitter down below as well. Now, on the arcade side of things, Jotego and his team released Alien Storm for the Sega System 18 core, and I did a video when Shadow Dancer first came over to MiSTer FPGA, but honestly, in my opinion, Alien Storm is the best game on the System 18, so it's great that it's already here. It's a run and gun pseudo beat 'em up. It has some shmup style levels, and it also has some pseudo light gun areas as well. And if you know anything about me or the channel, arcade light gun games are my favorite genre of arcade game, and honestly don't really have many at all over on the MiSTer FPGA side of things. So getting Alien Storm, even if it isn't a proper light gun game, getting the gameplay style is a ton of fun. and Jotego usually releases cores on Friday, so it's possible about 24 hours from now you may have a Moonwalker core because it runs on the same System 18. Everyone's been asking when Moonwalker is going to be available, so we'll see if tomorrow is the lucky day. If it's not, in the meantime, just play Alien Storm. Total 10 out of 10. And the Amigavision has been updated as well, and they've added Castlevania AGA and some other games. I did a video on Castlevania AGA, the updated version, maybe like 3 weeks ago. It is an absolute ton of fun, and I've been playing a lot more Amiga in the background because of MiSTer FPGA. So if you want to see some more Amiga specific videos, leave me a comment down below. I've been thinking about doing a few of them, but I want to know the interest is there, because for me, I am still learning the Amiga library, so if you have any games, recommend them below. I've been basically playing just what you guys recommend when I ask, and I've been finding a lot of fun stuff. But if you haven't played Castlevania AGA yet, or if you haven't updated Amigavision, now is the time to do so. There's a bunch of new games on there, and honestly, who wouldn't want to play Castlevania AGA? It's basically just a new version of Castlevania that's very familiar, running on Amiga hardware, and if you don't want to do the entire setup process for your MiSTer FPGA, you can also just do this on Amiga Emulation, or you can even run it on a real Amiga as well. Of course, this is just emulating an Amiga in FPGA, but definitely play Castlevania AGA. It's a 10 out of 10. Can't recommend it enough. But that is what happened in the month of June for MiSTer FPGA. I'd say this is one of the quieter months. We got a lot of fun hardware and a lot of Sega Saturn updates, but on the new cores, especially in the arcade side, it was kind of more of a sleepy month, but I get it. It's getting warm outside, summer is starting in a lot of places, and people just have other things to do. But short of that, I will tell you what happens in July. At the end of July, we got a lot more videos coming up. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.